Does anyone else want to check in on our beginners and see how they're coming along? Well, today we've got ourselves another group match of our beginners tournament. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to call out their genius plays, whether they intended to do them or not, and we're going to offer some pointers and maybe some tips and tricks along the way of what they should have been doing. It'll be an entertainment/learning recording, hopefully, maybe. We'll see. We've got ourselves a pretty standard map here. Actually, funny enough, if you look at the Fremen, they've spawned all by themselves, and there's not a deep desert within 100 miles of their siege. there's one up by Corino, there's one over by the Smugglers, there's another one between the Smugglers and the Atreides. No deep deserts for the Fremen. That's pretty funny. All right, what do we got today? We've got Rimas on House Atreides down in the south. Rimas rocking Lady Jessica and Thurfer Howitt. To the west, on Dr. Liet Kynes, is Null on the Fremen. Null is rocking Mother Romalo and Stilgar. Very, very common picks. Up north, we've got Quiet Snow 63, aka Corse. And if what I was reading is correct, Corse is a gamepad player, playing it with a controller. What a legend. Corse has, of course, Princess Urulon, and has opted for Zoom Garan, which is, I think, a great choice. You don't see Zoom as much as I think you ought to. He's really cool. And then, finally, last but not least, to the east, with Stakhanov and Lashan Hara, we've got the Space Cow They. We will see how they do over in the east. Looks like they got some interesting terrain to work with. We'll see how it goes. Let's start up down south. Let's take a look at our Atreides friend. Rimas, what's he got going for him? He's picked up his spice real quick. A little extra water on there, but not much in the way of perks. His second grab is going to be Analysts and an Ingenious Mind. That's not too bad. Minerals plus Ingenious Mind is a whole bunch of extra plascrete for free. That's pretty good. And then Analysts, where I'm actually quite fond of as a quirk. Plus 2 intel production if you build one building of each type. That should be pretty easy to do there. And if we take a wider look at the terrain they've got around them, to the east they've got a sandfall and a worm nest. They've got 1 spice, 2 spice, maybe worm nest, maybe 3 spice. That's probably going to be a Fremen spice up there. Might be a little dry in the spice. We'll see if they can grab the worm nest before the Smugglers get there. It's a little closer to the Atreides than it is to the Smugglers. But the village location is actually a little Smuggler favored, a little contested. We'll see how that goes. Might be dry in the spice unless the Atreides are able to fast expand and hold on to some of their territory. Also, apart from Worm Nest and Sandfall, not great access to specials. Far to the west is a Well of Riches, which is great, but then again, you're starting to get into the Fremen territory. The Polar Sink is... The village of it is very northernly based, so that'll be hard for the Atreides to grab hold of. The Desolation is right in the middle. That's very fascinating. Over here you've got the Crescent Ridge, which maybe, probably not. Being sandwiched between 2 deep deserts means it's almost certainly got to be Smuggler territory if the Smugglers want any access toward the middle of the map. So probably not in the Atreides book. We'll see what they're able to grab. There is, and right here, I didn't even see it, Observatory Mountain. So actually, there's some decent potential for specials for the Atreides. They're all a little ways out. There's nothing particularly safe for them. They're all kind of in contested range, but that's fun too. Let's head to the west, take a look at the Fremen being piloted by Null today. They've grabbed the basin already with some Plascrete quirks and statecraft. That's no big deal. They're opting for some quick wind traps to get the water to march around. What do they have in terms of spice? So 1 spice, 2 spice, probably 3 spice there, and then from that it's gonna be a reach. They could probably grab this one at least for a while, but that's a bit closer to the Imperial base. Yeah, a lot of the spice actually, there's not a ton of safe spices. I think a lot of the good regions actually seemed sort of placed between players, which is really interesting. It might give us some good border skirmishes or some important territory that is up for grabs. Of course, we got the Well of Riches to the west that we talked about. The Desolation is actually a really unfortunate spawn for the Fremen. This is not a deep desert. They cannot surround this. Being weirdly in the middle of the map means that if they're not careful, they might accidentally walk through it, which would kill them. And it doesn't really serve as a barrier, like, to defend them from anyone else. It's just this, like, weird thorn in your side dead zone. A very strange spawn. I've never seen it, a Desolation just out in the middle of somewhere. But I like strange spawns. Strange spawns are my jam. He's grabbed the rocks behind him. A little bit of extra water production on it, but it's only a 4 wind, or Solari per water production, but it's only a 4 wind, so not as good as it could be. A little extra manpower there. Not a ton of exciting stuff in his immediate vicinity here. Let's see. Special access. Ooh, the specials are a bit thin. Way up north, you got the Moon Dew. You got the Well of Riches. And then you got to kind of fight Atreides for stuff. They could probably hold the Polar Sink fairly easily. But not... It's an interesting song. It's a lot of space to spread out. It's a lot of space to pillage. You could put it that way. A lot of these lousy junk villages that have no traits on them are really good for, you know, just running through, pillaging, getting good money from. We'll see what the Fremen are able to make of that. That's not really an ideal spawn for them. We already talked about how the great deserts are well out of their reach. So I don't think we're going to see any deep desert surrounds this game, unless there's a dead Corino and things go absolutely bonkers, but we shall see. First Landsraad comes up. Diplomatic Congress, not that big of a deal. Water subsidies would probably be Fremen favored. Research investments for faster econ tech. Oppose the mid one because the smug's gonna take it, says Remas. Space Cowboy says, "What? Why would I ever do that? Rude, hurtful even." I don't think the smugs are in any position to take the mid. They are not. If anything, it's probably would be Fremen, but then they also have to like navigate around the Desolation carefully to get there. I bet no one takes the mid. In fact, the most likely person to take the mid is probably the Atreides because they could peacefully annex it while no one else goes there. The smugs are speaking with the Fremen, maybe trying to see if they could get a deal out of this. But neither Smugs or Fremen really have any votes to work with. It's very early in the game. Smugs have not unlocked their votes, which they do not get until... Oh, what is it? Smugglers. Faction summary. There it is. 5K Hegemony joins the Landsraad Council with 50 votes. We did not get a diplomatic congress. We did not get water subsidies, but econ investment is cheaper. I'll give everybody 1 or 2 days, and then I'm going to check their developments, and they all better be researching econ tech. Anytime you get a 50% boost to research, you really, unless you have an incredibly pressing need, ought to move your tech over. Where are we at? Atreides are finishing up diplomatic maneuvers. They went for a quick lay of the land, and then they're going to be grabbing urban planning, modular parts. Or actually, they're doing survival training. They should cancel that and go straight into the yellow stuff. This will be done quickly, but this is time that you could be getting 50% bonus on this stuff. If we look over here, Fremen also finishing up Fremen Solidarity, don't have yellow tech. Switch over to yellow tech right away. Smugglers finishing red, doing blue queued up next. Corino finishing green with nothing queued up. All right, folks. If economy development completion speed is increased by 50% and you ever anticipate wanting any economic developments, now's the time. Now's the time. Take advantage of that. Null says Atreides and Corino need to worry about each other building up too. All right. People are Atreides and Corino are 10,000 miles away from each other, but people are bantering. You like that? You like it in the chat? I don't. Let me see. I don't think these guys. I don't think anyone's in. They're not in like a Discord voice chat room. I think people are separate, so they gotta chat for our entertainment and all chat or in private messages. So, all right. So we've established that the Fremen have an interesting spawn. Maybe not a good one. We'll see how it goes for him. Let's head up and take a look at our Corino friend, Quiet Snow, aka Corse, our gamepad master. How are they doing up here? They've grabbed a spice field with cheaper buildings and money per units dying in territory. Extra money for water. That's actually not too terrible. They're making 54 off of this region. It's a quick rare elements that they've gone double processing plant. They're going to go double water plant. It's a shame that's only a 4 wind strength. If it was a 5, it would have been quite juicy. And they've grabbed some quick fuel cells as well. Bonus to plascrete. There. Do they not have... Yeah, they don't have minerals around them, but this makes up for it a little bit. A little bit, not a ton. And you're paying double price to get that, since they've got to have 2 plascrete factories here. Plascrete factories famously expensive, 20 Solari upkeep a day. But you gotta do what you gotta do. You need that plascrete. What have they got going for them? To the east, there's a great volcano, but we've already got smugglers sort of pressing up towards it. Though that ought to be Corino territory. I would want them to fight for that. If they head towards the mid, they've got a very tight choke point. In fact, they might even need to take a little jaunt through a deep desert to keep going through the mid. But a very tight choke point that leads to the Imperial Basin. Imperial Basin is the bonus to recruitment offices and manpower, so that'll be important to pick up. And then there is a spice right in front of them there, and some fuel cells. If they head to the west, there is another spice field, and then the Mundu Vale. Kind of tight on territory, not a lot to work with. These 2 big old deep deserts sort of pressed up right against them. There's a mountain range here as well. Just not a lot of room for our Corino champion. Where would he want to drop a base? Interesting question. There's some good stuff to the west. Even if you didn't want the spice, if you dropped a base here, you could kind of control 2 rare elements at least, and the Mundu Vale. If you went more toward the middle, you could drop a base here, which actually is probably your best bet, because that would guard Polar Sink as well as Imperial Basin and give you at least a close fallback point to a spice field. I'm saying Famir here at the Haga Basin is probably your best base drop spot. It is a bit forward and vulnerable, but it's also a pretty good defensive spot. You know, with the desolation here, it actually makes it less vulnerable. If the Fremen want to come, they got to come in through a gap in the west across a lot of desert. Yeah, I think that's a decent enough spot. I would drop there probably. But if there was a western drop, that would not be unreasonable. I don't want to see like a safe backfield drop. And they are rushing over to grab the Great Volcano. Good job, good play. Pick that up before these dirty smugglers get their hands on it. But in terms of specials, I think you need to have these forward ones in your clutches if you want to have a chance to hedge this out with Corino. It's going to be a tight game, I think, because nobody seems to have an obvious big placement advantage from what I can tell. Let's keep rolling. Let's head to the east. Smugglers, let's see how they are doing. The Space Cow They over there, going for a ride. Space Cow They is an older player. I remember playing with them from long ago, but I think they've been... they never played too much, and they haven't played in a long time, and so they were allowed into the beginners tournament, though they have some of that old, deeper knowledge. Just not a lot of practice in. And they're about to get pillaged by this siege right here. And their army is was way south? Oh no. Did their army die? Did they pillage and then run out of supplies? Something catastrophic happened to the smugglers and I did not even see it. Maybe they got worm struck? I'm guessing they ran out of supplies. Lordy lord, that doesn't look good. You've got no troops. Armies. None. Ooh, yeah, something bad happened. They probably went a bit far out into the desert. And what's their water like? 12 water is a bit low. And we saw them down here, so they pillaged this and they pillaged that. Maybe they pillaged this and then they had a long walk home and they ran out of water before they got there. That's my most likely guess. Ooh, That's a rough start to lose your starting army, and then at the same time as you're being liberated. Everybody gets a Bene Gesserit from the second Landsraad. Infrastructure control comes up, and the Atreides lay claim to it. We also have a territory contest passed by the minor houses. So a little extra hegemony rebate if you can snag a special region. We've got one special region already for Corino. Nothing for the Smugglers. Nothing for Atreides. One special region for the Fremen. Now, you might not think it, but the plus 500 hegemony for this, pretty big deal actually, especially if you're able to grab 2 regions and make it plus 1,000. 1,000 free hedge, you know, it doesn't feel like a lot in the early game, but when you get to the end game, oh, you'd slap your mother for 1,000 free hedge. We'll see if anyone's able to grab anything else. So Corino's fairly close. They might be able to grab the Imperial Basin for that extra. A bit of a walk for the Fremen to get anything else. Smugglers do get a scavenger online, and he's fighting to the death with this raider. I think he's going to win that fight. We'll see how the Cowday does, is able to bounce back from that. If we examine their territory a little more, they're in the same boat as Corino, where they've got some very close-in deserts that feels like it's sort of locking them off from a lot of territory. Now, smugglers don't mind that as much, especially with the likes of Stakhanov. They could go very lean on territory. You know, they've got a spice field up here, a Stakhanov spice field right now. They can move up and either grab, probably grabbing the Crescent Ridge is the way to go, but you could very easily grab the Crescent Ridge and the Chai Hills here, and that would give you another spice field and a special region. You could head south. You could grab this special region, although it is unfortunately adjacent to your other spice. But you could go all the way south and grab the Worm Nest, and then it would be a Stakhanov Worm Nest, which would make it very hard for people to take away from you. It's even a very favorable village spawn, so I'd like to see them identify that and maybe grab it before the Atreides. That would be a great spot to have. So they could work with stuff. So, you got one special, 2 specials for sure, probably 3 if you can get to the Worm Nest in time. 3 specials is just about right. You could pop 3 craft shops, and then you emphasize putting in all your underworld headquarters out around the map. Your underworld headquarters that you establish in other people's regions. Each region that you establish one gives you a ticking +1 daily hegemony. So they're little mini craft shops. And then combined with the Stakhanov craft shops, you'd be cooking a pretty decent hedge. You'd be in an okay spot. We'll see how. I think you can make it work. You can make it work. It's not an unsalvageable spawn for our smuggler friends here. They could do something with it. The Cho market opened up. We got 10 shares for the Atreides. Smugglers picked up 40, and House Corino bought 20. They start with 50. So not a ton of Chomen from anybody. We check our spice rates. The rates are quite bad. 1.8 is a bit low, and it's going to go down in 0 days to 1.6, which is very low. Nobody's making a lot of spice. Fremen have 3 harvesters online, actually. They don't need to control the regions in order to have their harvesters out and about. So they're making 68 a day, 25 for the Smugs, 25 Corino, 33 for the Atreides. No one else has managed to pick up a second spice field yet. Army-wise, we've got the largest army actually belongs to the Atreides, which is a bit unusual. Maybe they are leery of their Fremen neighbors. And we did see the Fremen prioritize grabbing this observatory mountain. Very aggro. It's you could see it from Arrakeen here. You can, up on the spires, you could just look out and see Fremen out in the desert. That I would have anticipated being Atreides territory, but the Atreides have not prioritized forward expansion. They've been sort of grabbing stuff in their backfield. It's also a special region, so the territory contest will come into play, giving a little extra boost for the Fremen. Well played to prioritize grabbing special regions while that territory boost is ticking. What do we got tech-wise? We got a bit of yellow and a bit of red for the Atreides. It looks like they're coming back. They're grabbing a little bit of everything. Atreides foreman coming up, so they're leaning a bit more into the spice trade. But they only have 1 spice field. I don't think I wouldn't put any priority on foreman or even really Chom integration unless I was looking already at 2 or 3 or more spice fields. And he's on one spice field right now. Looks like he was thinking about expanding northward but changed his mind. Maybe just murdering some civilians for funsies, which the Atreides are known to do. They didn't put that in the books. Fremen over here gone straight into Desert Watchers, which is a very interesting tech. This is more of an often seen as more of an endgame tech. The importance of this is it makes all of your Fremen units what's the word? Stealthed and invisible when they're in your own territory. But you don't need that early in the game. Early in the game, it's much more common to see an expansion through the heavy red tree to unlock more command points, or the likes of desert trekkers especially to speed you up and give you water in neutral territory, even Stalwart Alliance, so that you could have easier liberation of enemy territories. Though I suppose they don't have a lot of neighbors yet. They've gone quick Sand Brotherhood. That's good. That's very important if you're playing with Stilgar. But just kind of bouncing around without maybe a clear goal here. They're starting to grab that third column of red stuff now. Smugglers, meanwhile, went for very fast illicit methods, which is a native customs. This is typically your fast expansion, to annex territory as quickly as possible. It is much more common for a priority on going up to industrial scavenging early on. They did grab guerrilla tactics and organized looting quite quickly. That's good. This is fine. I don't mind this. Although the Atreides did beat them over to the Worm Nest. Looks like the Worm Nest got peaceful annexed and then immediately everything built on it. They're not building any defenses on it. And currently, so when you peaceful annex it, you get the militia that are there. So they've got 2 demo militia and 1 ranged militia. This smuggler army could march over here right now, murder all these people and pillage them. Easily. We do have war between the Atreides, and we have war, the only peace rather, is the Atreides and Corino, who have a trade and a research agreement going. But Corino and the smugglers have a non-aggression pact, and Corino has handed out a couple of the Imperial elite Sardaukar to the smugglers. So that's an even slightly more juiced up smuggler force. Smugglers could smash this up, pillage it, burn it all down before the Atreides could even get there. I'd love to see that. We'll see if what it goes. In the Landsraad, Imperial Audit offers a little extra standing to anyone who wants it. Private Mandate would be big for both Fremen and smugglers. Looks like smugglers are able to secure it, though. And Imperial Missionaries passes, giving everybody a nice influx of Solari. Courtesy of the minor houses, House Corino got a little bonus Landsraad standing. Beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick here. If we check resources, everybody's got a little bit of a bank. Smugglers are the only ones... or not smugglers, Fremen are the only one making anything, because they're the only one with much in the way of spice at the moment. We do have a second spice field online for smugs now, so they're making a little bit more. But our rate is terrible, and it's going to continue to be terrible for the next month or so. So it's going to be a poor lobby. I don't expect to see a whole lot of choming. In fact, it's probably House Corino we could see sold off some of their shares. Smugglers at 60, Atreides at 10, Corino at 50. Interesting. Let's check our faction summary. We got a big lead. Corino making 12 a day, 6 a day on smugglers, 1 a day for Atreides. That's funny. Did they get a... Where there? They get... There it is. One of their agents got an artist trait, which is a +1 hegemony production. It's a very rare trait. It's okay. If you could choose, you would choose for every one of your agents to be an artist. But for randomly just one of them being an artist is not that big of a deal. But +1 a day is something. It's tick and hedge for them. Anyone prioritizing any craft workshops? Not Atreides, not Fremen, not smugglers, not Corino. Nope, nobody's even got valuable trinkets queued up. So none of that on the table yet. Smugs doing or not Smugs. I keep calling the Fremen the Smugs. They're like permanently conflated in my mind. Oh, and we did have the aggression that I was talking about. Smug army marches down, murders the peaceful residents who just recently switched to the Atreides side, and are now pillaging, and ought to get quite a bit of money from this. Atreides back at their base. It's a long walk to the east, and they did not fast build. They fast built 5 buildings there, and not a one of them was an airfield. I bet they're regretting that now, because they got a decent force. They could probably contest this. It'd be a pitched fight, but Smug's actually bashing buildings, and I feel like there's some... Okay, pillage reward. 4,000 Solari to pillage it. Did he stop that cap, though? Maybe he's changing his mind? Oh, no, the pillage went off. Space Cow, they got paid. Yeah, so you could mouse over the little resources button on something. It'll tell you what the pillage reward is. 4,000 Solari, 300 or 400 Plascrete, and they're bashing all the buildings just to pour a little extra sand into the wound. Cruel, cruel thing to do. Not going to make any friends with the Atreides, and this between the Atreides and the smugglers here. But it is just a pillage, so the Atreides will have an opportunity to rebuild and refortify, and then it's a very close walk over to some territory that the Smugs grabbed. I'm not entirely sure why they grabbed this. I feel like they took this as maybe a jumping off point to go just fight Atreides for funsies, because this terrain doesn't give us anything. It's really just an airfield. So yeah, so it is just a forward base to go pick on the Atreides. The Atreides call out Smugs at 11%, just spitefully so. And we did have an Imperial base drop exactly where I said he should do it. Good boy, course. A really solid spot here. Ought to give good control. You could see their missile range is just short of the village, but it's close enough. So that'll give them control of the polar sink. It locks down the Imperial basin for sure. Maybe access even to the Chai Hills here if they can get it before the Smugs head west, and I think they ought to be able to. Once you drop your base, the regions around it are very cheap to annex, comparatively for Corino. Corino, of course, one of their defining features is authority cost to annex a village is increased 200% more by distance from an Imperial base. So when you have an Imperial base down, it's very easy. It's normal prices to annex stuff, but as soon as you start going further distances from the Imperial base, it gets way more expensive authority-wise to annex. So dropping the base here is both a defensive measure, it'll lock down this territory for them to get a hold of, and an offensive or aggressive expansion kind of measure, because it makes all of this territory around it much, much cheaper for them to annex and lay claim to. Good spot, nice play, I like to see that. Space Cow is building up at home. We see the worm nest getting rebuilt now with missile battery and airfield and a couple of heavy militia. The Atreides have learned their lesson. Fremen hanging out fairly forwardly up at the observatory mountain here. I would expect them probably just to do some pillaging and such in the area, though Atreides at 37 command points, only 41 for the Fremen, so they're not exactly outmatching the Atreides. These were clearly Fremen who studied at Kenry's School of Donkey Mastery, because we've got 5 mobile turrets online already. Mobile turrets, sometimes dismissed by folks because they're typically seen as an anti-air unit. You can switch their capabilities where they sort of implant themselves and they could shoot up really strong anti-air missiles. But a while back they got a very nice buff, and their just base attack speed and power are quite good. So the little guys with pistols next to the donkeys, the donkey handlers, the donkey minders, actually do damn good ranged DPS. And really the only proper ranged DPS for the Fremen. Skirmishers do amazing tossing grenades into large clumps of low armor units, but do very little against high armor units and very little against anyone that spreads out. Once upon a time, skirmishers were just murderers, but they got rebalanced a bit, and they're a reasonable, anti-blob unit, but not OP as they once were. They used to be able to just delete stuff. Whew, shivers. Those were dark times. Landsraad coming online. Economic investigations is no big deal. I guess people have the econ tech they want by now. Landsraad investigation, no big deal. Foreign recruitment, probably no big deal. I'm assuming nobody is in the need of rebuilding big armies. Manpower-wise, no one's investing too much in it. Plus 12, plus 20, plus 11, plus 12. Pretty basic numbers for manpower. No one's seeing the need for too much army building and aggressiveness early in the game yet. We got a lot of authority for the smugglers, and I assume they're about to use it to lock down the Crescent Ridge here. That's going to be perilously close to a Fremen army, but this is a better smuggler army, especially because they've still got their Sardaukar with them. They've got a couple of scav drones. 2 is probably not necessary. 1 scav drone will do the work. But they are quite tanky, at the very least. Not particularly killy. Handful of snipers. I would guess the Fremen army, which actually was annexing that, laying claim to another spice field here. And we got smugglers annexing this, so we've got a smuggler-Fremen border relatively early on. Look at this aggressive Fremen expansion. Leaving the north totally open, though. That's very interesting. And I suppose they think they can go back and get it anytime because the Corino not known as much of a fast expander, and indeed their expansion has been all central. So this northern territory will be a no man's land, a wilderness for quite some time. Fremen working to consolidate here. We've got rebels coming to lay siege to the false wall here. Oh, and they grabbed this territory. I didn't even think of it. And they set up a trafficking station in order to siphon away the spice from the worm nest. Minus 20% spice production in neighboring region, and gain 80% of the neighboring region's spice production as Solari. So the more spice they make out of the worm nest, the more pure Solari they'll be handing over to the smugs. But they've got a rebels here. Rebels is weird. It must have been because they're not rebels that are sacking the village. They're just standing around and hanging out. It must have been from was there a Landsraad one? Oh, there it is. Fremen Descent was on the Landsraad investigation, and then the Fremen voted it up for no particular reason. Just the Fremen wanted to stick rebels on everybody just to be annoying about it. And indeed, it is annoying. Looks like everybody else has cleaned up their rebels. There's just some still left on the smugglers. The smugglers, however, because the Fremen are invisible, are walking away, and the Fremen army is right here. Probably grabbing ruins is a great pickup for Fremen, but they could easily walk over and give the smugs some trouble. Although we do have a non-aggression pact between the Fremen and the smugglers. So maybe they will honor the pact. Fremen and Corino also non-aggression. Really, it's just everybody at war with the Atreides. Corino has managed peace with all factions. And the Imperial Mandate again gets refreshed, it looked like. Or still a month on it at least. So plenty of Sardaukar to help out. And, Corino starting to grab the Polar Sink as expected. Down south, the Atreides not really doing as much expansion as I might have thought they would. They're low on authority. What have they been spending it on? Are they peaceful annexing something somewhere? Okay, they are peaceful annexing the Sandfall here. That makes sense. A big influx in power for the Fremen as we see a couple of Fedaykin and Chani come out here. And it looks like they're marching south. I think they don't like the Atreides, but this is a pretty solid Atreides force. Atreides leaving. Looks like they're just farming militia. They're just killing militia for the EXP on their units, though most of these units are still relatively unexperienced. I guess this guy is getting up there a little bit. Atreides famous for not being able to pillage neutral villages, but you still walk out and you kill stuff sometimes for fun, because it does give XP for your soldiers to kill the militia. It's pretty easy to do. You can't really do anything unless you want to annex that village, but XP is very valuable because oftentimes, let's check their armory out. And they haven't opted for it yet, but it's very common for a second option to be the Prana Bindu initiation, where experience levels grant you additional maximum health. It can work to make your army very, very tanky if you get some high experience level stuff. And they've opted for Duncan, the heroic figure. heroically marching around, murdering all of the militia at the local villages. Cowthay in the east has got his smugglers down south again. I wonder if he's looking at trouble for the Atreides once more. It could be the Fremen have declined a trade from the Atreides. Atreides may be looking for peace, and the Fremen said, no thank you. Resource-wise, Atreides are in the red. They are having a bit of a struggle economically. You got to get out of that. The rate is terrible now. It's going to get much better soon, but you don't want to be in the red. If you're in the red in let's see if we could find the debuff here. Solari deficit minus 100% knowledge, cannot heal or recruit mechanical units, and units will desert and buildings will break until the deficit is resolved. I think maybe he didn't see or doesn't notice it. Rimas, sell some spice. Rimas is talking about the lobby. We need to contest Chom or strike the spice field. Fair enough. Smugglers, since everybody was in that long drought of terrible prices, everyone was stockpiling their spice, and the stockpiling of spice made Chom shares very cheap. Still cheap at 83 a share. Buying a 20 stack is what, 1,600? That's not too bad. 22% on the smugglers' space Cowthay. Buying up a ton of Chom. Putting that pillared economy to good use. I think they're going to fall off because they don't really have that much to pillage. There's just not enough regions around them. If they were in more of a... If they were in this Fremen territory here, maybe Fremen might be feeling fighty here. If they were in this territory and they had all of these special regions to pillage, that would be a gold mine of pillaging. But they're quite stuck back into the corner here. They can't really go north or they run into Corino. They can't go south or they run into the Fremen. And even all the way to the west is blocked off. South blocked off by the Atreides. To the west, blocked off by the Fremen. They can't really get out there unless it's aggro fighting another nation state, right? So I feel like they're going to have a hard time coming up with more big money in the future. So I don't actually think a Chom victory is on the table for them, but they might be able to get up to a 30% or something, which would be very nice. Labor rights comes online. Smuggler bounty cast on House Atreides. Oh, this would actually be really bad. I don't know if Cowthay realized, but this would be really bad. Imperial edict made it affect only a single faction. Fremen and Corino put it on the smugglers. Oh, you guys could have really broken Remus's back here with this, but apparently nobody wanted the free money. I'm a little surprised that nobody opted for it. A little surprised. Less upkeep for Corino. Corino has their triple blue online. 400 votes lets them basically pick whatever they want to have happen. And what they want is less upkeep, is lower taxes. Oh, look, the rich people voted for lower taxes on themselves. Funny how that works. Agenda contracts, no big deal there. Labor rights on Cowthay is no big deal. They will be able to fund that. If you'd put it on the Atreides, you would make their very bad monetary situation significantly worse. So that would have been fun to see, just because we like suffering. But he's still, Remus still hasn't been able to fix his income there. He's just not making enough. Only one harvester online. This one must have gotten... No, this refinery is destroyed. Maybe that refinery got sold because he's in the red. Sometimes your buildings break down and get sold for you. But that's about worst case scenario, is losing a building there. I think stuff is starting to get sold off. There's an empty spot here. There's an empty spot here. Empty spot here. I think stuff's breaking. Remus, you got to fix your economy, my man. It's bad and getting worse. You need money. Just hard sell. He's just not making enough to hard sell. Have you got any Chom? No Chom. The next thing to do is really to disband. I guess you got Sardaukar. Disband some of your expensive troops, right? If you've got a warden here, costs you 20 solari a day to upkeep a warden. You could sell some of your more expensive buildings, sell some of the plascrete factories. We've got a lot of plascrete factories around, actually. Um, yeah, sell off the missile turrets if you need to. 7 upkeep a day. You gotta make some money. It's bad and getting worse. Oof. Oof. Economic blunders. Now they could pillage other players, and it looks like that's what they're opting to do. Atreides headed in on the Smugs. Smugs are pillaging. They're also getting attacked by the Fremen, so it looks like Remus was able to sort of maybe rally a bit of the lobby to go pick on them. This is getting annexed by Fremen. This is getting pillaged. Okay, I love to see the pillaging here. You don't see a lot of Atreides pillaging. 1.5k would at least solve their problems in the short term. He's on the green with income. He might be able to get out of debt if he can complete his pillage. However, we've got a force mercenaries coming online. That signals to me that Caude wants to battle for something. Does he want to battle Fremen or does he want to battle Atreides? Fremen are coming in. They want to fight. All right. Null over here. This feels a little greedy and deep here. They might well get punished by this. Indeed, he sees them coming in. Poison reserves go down. Fremen are a little light on the supply. And in come the Smuggler army. It wasn't a perfect engage, but they do pick Chani up immediately. It's going to be a resounding Smuggler victory. We're out of supplies on the Fremen. The Fremen have gone, once again, they've delved too greedily and too deeply and awoken something that they ought not to have. Shai-Hulud comes up and eats some of the Fremen just to show his displeasure at their decision making, and they're all going to die in the desert, unfortunately. Yeah, I like the aggression. You love to see it, but that was like a little bit too much aggression. I told you it was a waste of your time, Fremen. Caude sending out some rightful sass, though it doesn't look like he's going to be able to stop this. Is this still ticking even with the... Yeah, this is still ticking through. There's a couple raiders here that also want to pillage it. There's an airfield on it. Go get it. Go get it, Caude. Fly over there. There's an airfield. Spending too much time typing over there. Ought to be... You just wiped their army, so you know they're all dead. There's just like one guy here standing on the cap. Go fly to the west and stop that, at least. This got pillaged, and indeed the territory behind it gets peaceful annexed. The space cruiser wreck, which we didn't even talk about really. I kind of looked over it and didn't... I don't think I mentioned that. I didn't really internalize that the space cruiser wreck was right there. Would be a great spot for the smugglers. Atreides are going to grab it and cause some trouble. Smugs are moving out now. There's an airfield, right? There is an airfield. You could just fly there, my man. Made. I think you got enough money to fly, right? Yeah, you're fine. They may make it in time, but they should have gone a while ago. You got to be decisive in some of these things. If you wipe someone's army, they are going to get there in time. A handful of Fadakin don't really want to run into the entire Smuggler army. They could have been there like a minute or two ago. And at the same time, we've immediately got the Space Cruiser wreck gets taken and missile batteries go up. Space Cruiser wreck is nice. It's not going to help economically at all. Atreides hanging on to a positive Solari total by the skin of their teeth. Let's check out our faction summary. Corino looks like they've got a bit of the old hedge cook going on, unless I'm mistaken. One craft workshop up over here. Not prioritizing it yet. They could get some up in the Imperial Basin. They could get some up in the Polar Sink. This is actually a military factory coming online. That's a very early military factory. I like to wait. And we got some aggression in the middle. Smugglers want the Fremen to pay the blood price for that aggression of them. They didn't even lose anything to the Fremen. They managed to beat the heck out of the Fremen, so now they're gonna kick them while they're down. Oh, forgive the yawns. It's early morning here. It's like 9 a.m. I don't know where these folks are playing from, but Here we are. Imperial Intelligence online. That means someone's popping infiltration cells down. Water Sellers Union is up for vote. Not a big deal, but Atreides and Corino eligible for it. Corino, the only one with anything. We've got good influence on the smugglers, but they have a very low influence cap, capping them out at about 250 votes. Corino making okay influence, and with 400 base votes, they could basically pick any two things that they want and get them. Imperial Intelligence is down. Someone plopping infiltration cells? Who would do such a thing? Corino, maybe? I feel like the smugglers might be too busy for that. If we take a look at Corino, I don't see any cells on their neighbors. If we take a look at one thing we could do. So this passes, cannot be targeted, so Corino voted to pass that. Corino made Imperial Intelligence pass, got themselves a Water Sellers Union, and military developments were slower military developments were opposed by the Atreides. Do we see any eyeballs? Maybe the smugglers? We could check probably by espionage here. Fremen have someone on the smugglers. Atreides have someone on the Fremen. Smugglers have someone on the Atreides. And Corino has someone on the smugglers. Oh my goodness, everybody is getting ready to stab everyone. There is something. You have an infiltration. Okay, so the smugglers have infiltration cells on the Atreides. Atreides have come in here and pillaged this region. We might have a battle. Atreides and smugglers might meet in the desert. I don't know. Looks like a pretty big Atreides army. 57 command points to 50 for the smugglers. 65 with Corino, just sitting back, living his best life up here, uncontested. Atreides, given time, getting an airfield online, getting a military base online, they are committed to aggression into the smugglers here. Things looking a little dicey for the Cowday. Smugs on me, you can attack. Okay, Remus is trying to call out and rally the lobby against the smugs. It's not necessary. The smugs are not in a good spot. 21%, and I wouldn't expect that going up a lot more. And he's certainly not. They are certainly not doing well on the hedge either. So at this point, rallying the lobby against the smug. I mean, there's no reason for the lobby to do anything more here. I can understand why the Fremen might want to grab this, and that would be not too unreasonable. But there's so much terrain here that they could be grabbing, right? So much terrain. They could be focusing on building out their empire, focusing on some expansion. They don't really need to be waging war, especially with the Atreides already waging war and getting kind of the better of things for now. Corino cackling in the shadows, as Corino is wont to do. And indeed, if he put a little more emphasis into it, he needs to he should repurpose Polar Sink, get Craft Workshop here, repurpose the Imperial Basin, get two Craft Workshops there. Just go all in, my man. You don't need. I wouldn't even hang back. Corino looks like the dominant military power on the planet right now. Only the Atreides just now catching up. But Corino in a great spot. I think if I was them, it would be pedal to the floor on the Chome Cook. Or not the Chome Cook, the Hedge Cook. Chome is not an issue. Smugglers... Oh, we've got a backstab, though. The Fremen come in and are working on liberating Atreides special regions. All right, all right. Fremen as an agent of chaos this game. We're going to see some conflict. The Atreides army is a little spread out. The army composition for the Fremen is a bit unusual, as we see 2, 4, 6, 7 skirmishers gonna trade very poorly into the heavily armored Atreides force. You could put them on the weapon squads, and they do pretty decent damage to the weapon squads and the rangers. However, they're barely gonna tickle the troopers and the warden, and a couple of Sardaukar here as well, because why not? Wormstrike pops up in the middle, eats probably a couple Fremen, a couple of Atreides in the process. Duncan dies, though. I'll say the Atreides are doing worse here than I thought they were going to do. They do manage to drive back the Fremen, though I think the Fremen probably could have fought that. They still have a handful of neutral raiders in the background that were helping them. This is a very beleaguered Atreides force. I think the Fremen could have cleaned that up, actually, surprisingly. It does, however, buy time for the Smugs to come in and liberate this military base, this forward military infrastructure that the Atreides had set up. Okay. All right, I like that. I like the thought of that play behind the Fremen. The execution could have used a little more work still, but the thought was good. No need to keep picking on the Smugs. They're a bit down and out at the moment. Resource-wise, they're not making any money. They haven't had the freedom to really do a lot of pillaging. We're seeing some decent income in Corino now. Still only 22 a day. They have not leaned into the craft workshops like I want them to. Fremen are spending so much time and money way up here, just sort of fighting people and not getting a lot from it. Do they have authority? The authority is ticking up. Smugs are actually capped on their authority. But being Stakhanov, that might not be such a big deal. Maybe they want to keep Stakhanov terrain. I don't know that you need to keep this place. I guess it's okay. It's making 51 Solari a day. It's only costing you like 12. So, but just by siphoning the income off of the worm nest, that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's not like a high value territory exactly, but it's something. Looks to me like a very comfortable Corino game for now. If the Fremen were able to focus a bit more on expansion, they'd be in a good spot. However, we've seen some questionable military engagements from them, so I think they might struggle to defend their territory if it really push comes to shove. And Corino actually has everything they need, which is why I advise them to just go straight to the hedge cook. They've got 1 special, 2 special, 3 specials, quite safe. Probably the most vulnerable one is that eastern one next to the smugglers, but you lock down 3 specials in good, safe territory. You've got a strong enough economy to support your 65 command point army. I mean, this is a pretty well-built army here. We got 2 siege tanks. We've got 2 incinerators, a whole horde of Sardaukar with Aramsham, handful of conscript rifles and Fremen mercenaries as well. I mean, this is a pretty close to an ideal general purpose config for an army. Kronos is online too. Corino looking really good, really good. Quiet Snow, aka Course, looking great. I hope he takes it. I think he's made good decisions, at least in his building and his expansion and stuff. Imperial Audit has a Fremen rebellion on it. Imperial Missionaries, Landsraad Witnesses, nothing particularly exciting in the Landsraad this go round. And again, we've got some influence from Fremen and Smugglers, but still Corino gets to pick what happens. They're the only one with anything in the way of votes. We'll come back to that. Let's take a look at main bases. If we check out Arakeen, we've got a couple of single yellow, a research center comes up, and just now working their way through towards a triple red district, command post online recruitment center. If we take a look at the Fremen, we've already got triple red out, and an administrative, a double yellow and a single yellow. Oh, recycling vats is a funny early pickup because they're running so far from home. They need those recycling vats. Do they have anything up with any of our neutral siege friends? No alliances really yet. Lots of trading. That's good. I wouldn't recommend early alliances because alliances will drain your authority income a little bit. You got to spend, I think it's like half an authority per alliance, and there's still 6 siege alliances. He's done all of his alliances. I'm sorry, I was misreading. He's allied everything for the bonuses, but not built on them yet. Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't do that if I were you. So an alliance with a siege gives you access to, the siege specialty. And in some cases those are nice, but like, do you really need your militia to have 50% more health right now for the Fremen? And if you didn't do that, then you would have 4 more water and 1 more authority. Maybe it's only, no, they changed that, so Stilgar doesn't change it. So if we take a look, the Fremen are currently +8 authority, but they're -6 from siege alliances. Wouldn't it be nice to have twice as much authority income when you've got all of this empty territory? How many regions do you not have taken? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 million regions uncapped by the Fremen. Would be really, really nice to have all that extra authority. So don't be too quick to make alliances, right? +4 knowledge might be a pretty useful, pretty valuable one. +10 Solari per active treaty? Absolute garbage. Don't be sending 1 authority a day out to maintain that sort of thing. So don't be too quick on your alliances. Trading is fine. Yes, that's good. Do that. But making the alliance, be careful about when you choose to do that because you're spending so much authority, right? It's the same as Corino building like propaganda offices, which incidentally, it's probably time for them to do. Corino, okay, Craft Workshop coming online there. Are we going to get some in the middle? You really ought to. I think you really ought to. I don't know that you need to be making 107 water. Oh Lord. Oh, and funny enough, wait, they are the water sellers too. Oh my God, that is funny. That's like the most water I've ever seen anyone make. It's a hilarious amount of water, and they're turning it into money. That's so funny. Water Sellers Union paying 215 Solari a day, powering the entire Corino economy, selling water. Space Cow Day comes up and pillages this spice field. Corino doesn't like it and flies down, but they're not in time to really do anything about it. Corino, for the most part, slowly consolidating some of the territory around their base. Atreides speaks with smugglers, smugglers speak with Atreides, Atreides speaks with smugglers. We're having some back and forth between the former rivals in the east. And things have gotten fairly peaceful. Okay, Fremen's starting to grab, they head up north, they grab the Moondew Vale, that's a smart pickup. And we're starting to see Daily Hedge come online for everybody. Valuable trinkets, valuable trinkets. No valuable trinkets yet for the Smugs, but yes for everybody else. Smug's got to get on that boat too. You want to be cooking Hedge as early as possible. Not a ton to work with though. They've got the Crescent Ridge. They could pick up the Space Cruiser. I think they're trying to keep this as a Stakhanov down there, but just ignore that and pick up your Space Cruiser already and put at least 2 craft workshops down. You can see the Smugs are doing a little okay, +12 just from their underworld headquarters. Add another 16 to that from just 2 special regions and you'd be in decent shape. House Corino looking real good. Economically, they're strong. They've bought up to 20%. Smugglers have been static at about 22% on the Chome market. My throat's getting dry. I gotta take a drink of water. All right, House Corino cooking the most Hedge now, and they still have more to go. Okay, another craft workshop going up here in the middle. This would also be where you would drop your double propaganda office then to really supercharge your craft workshop production. And I guess you keep your water extractors. Just dump your research hubs at this point. You're getting a little bit of Benny from them thanks to the scientist's quirk, which is very nice. But instead of making an additional 3 knowledge, how about you make an additional 8 daily hegemony? Yeah, do that. Do that. Go all in. We do have some... oh, lordy. There is a hidden thumper here. Not everybody got on the worm. Some people didn't make it on. But we've got aggression from the Fremen. The Fremen like to fight here. Null didn't hear no bell. However, we've got a chunky Corino force, and it's already adjacent to the main base. I think the Fremen are in trouble here. They are going very deep. The Corino territory is very defensive oriented, and the Corino army is probably the premier army on the map right now. And indeed, the Fremen see the writing on the wall and just run for their lives, which is the appropriate play there. The appropriate play would be not to try to annex the territory directly adjacent to the Imperial base with a full stack of Corino alive. The next most appropriate play is to run for your life when you realize you've made a terrible mistake, and that's fine. That's fine. A huge horde of raiders coming out, but they've all walked through the desolation, so most of them are near death. Looks like Smugs pillaging in the east. What's our diplomacy look like? Non-aggression between smugglers and Fremen. Atreides actually broke their treaty with Corino, or maybe vice versa, but have a treaty with everybody else now. We'll come back to that. Hold on, I'm looking at diplomacy. Atreides have a trade agreement up with the Fremen. We're still seeing imperial mandates between Corino and the smugglers. Fremen at war with just Corino at the moment. And obviously we saw how that was going. Alright, let's check out the Landsraad. Infrastructure control online. Eye of the Council with a bounty on the smugglers, but no thanks. I think we'll just keep it, says House Corino. Even with the rest of the lobby all voting for the smugglers, the Triple Blue District is just too much for this to be for them to be overwhelmed here. Trial of the Great Houses does not pass. House Corino, Atreides took a big dip in their Landsraad standing. Was there a betrayal or something happened? What happened to the Atreides? Why is there? I missed something, because they should not be at 266 Landsraad. That is very low. House Corino is at 500 Landsraad standing. They're capped out. I guess because they're Atreides, they're still eligible for everything regardless of their Landsraad standing. It's just really weird that it's so low. Something must have happened. Did they betray a truce or something at some point, maybe? It's the only thing I could think of that would have them be that low. They should be in the 300-400 plus range at this point in the game. Very unusual. Again, more benefit for House Corino. Gives them high Landsraad standing, gives them a lot more max influence, gives them some free influence production, makes their Chom shares much cheaper, which they are taking advantage of. 22%. Have they got the tech for it? They're picking it up now. Chom manipulation turns their Chom shares into military power. And that is really when Corino starts to get scary. They're a pretty strong army in general, but once they get to the late game, if they're also economically strong and they can pick up Chom shares, the Chom shares serve to supercharge their army even more. You know, if they get up to the 30%, then you get the plus 15% military unit power from being a Chom board member. If you get, and then 30% or lower, right? If you're at 30%, you'd get an additional 15% from the Chom manipulation. And you certainly don't want them having an additional 30% military strength on their already high power units. Fremen coming in again. They did not learn their lesson. Corino army is down south. Here we go. We got a fight coming on. I think... Again, the army comp is questionable. The mass skirmishers is a very old style of building an army. It's not really done much these days. These days you don't see too many of them. They're going to absolutely struggle into 7 armor Sardaukar, and they're booking it. They're running for the hills. They're still invisible? Nope, they're coming back in. They're going to try their hand at it. I think they're in big trouble. I think even with a minimal amount of micro, we've got the siege tanks online, dropping bombs, and the Sardaukar are reaping a bloody toll through this Fremen, the squishy Fremen army. The Fedaykin are doing quite well with their DPS, but everything that's not a Fedaykin has been murdered. We trust you, Liet. Oof. Corino lost maybe 3 units, maybe, and then we're down. We lost about 40 command points of units for the Fremen. A full rout, a resounding Corino victory there. Did anybody have... No, you know what you'd really love to see? Scav teams. You really love to drop a scav team if you're about to beat up on someone. He's cooking so much hegemony and going to force gov. Quiet Snow says, I'm surrounded by fear and dead men. Someone looks at the thumbnails of this channel. That's a quote from Darth Vader in it's like a Star Wars comic book of something. It's like Darth Vader in a valley, and there's like rebel troopers surrounding him, like 1,000 of them, all with their guns pointed at him, and they say, "Surrender! You're surrounded!" And Darth Vader holds up his lightsaber and says, "All I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men," and he proceeds to kill everybody like he does. We do have a very aggressive invisible Free Company force. They are also going to get dumpstered by this chunky Imperial Corino force. But at the very least, the lobby seems to be awakening to the danger they're in. They're Ralph Wiggum on the bus going, "I'm in danger," as everyone sees this faction summary. Plus 48 a day for House Corino. This is why I advise the pedal to the metal, right? If people are already going to be coming to kill you because you're making 48 a day, you might as well be making more than 48 a day, right? He did go full propaganda office here. I like to see that. Get yourself a craft shop up on the Polar Sink, my man. I think you've just forgotten at this point, which happens. But fix that. Do better. This legend also allegedly is playing a gamepad as well, so not even a mouse and keyboard for him to work with. Smuggler force just hanging out here. Free Company just chilling up in Corino lands here. I'm not entirely sure why they're not losing supplies. They've got Banerjee. Okay, so units can regenerate in villages with underworld headquarters that are not in combat. I guess that means they can hold their supply there as well. Free Company head home without even making themselves known, and we've got an extremely aggressive Atreides expansion, and immediately building all his military buildings. But I think he's in trouble because Corino was savvy and watching it, and he's gonna get there in time. He's using Thurferhauer to try to speed it. Oh, I love this. Interdiction Zone from Corino, their special ability, which allows them to prevent airfield usage. The airfield's not even online, so they've caught it in time. Fremen are coming over to help, and Corino doesn't like it. He's pulling back. Yeah, tricky. I think... Corino, it's okay to be cautious there, because he doesn't want to get wiped, because if he gets wiped, he's then in big trouble. But the nature of the Fremen being here is going to allow this to finish, and then the Atreides can show up to double up there, and then it's big, big trouble. Dune Governorship online. Corino, the only option, can easily secure it themselves, and then probably win it again next round. Will we see a governor push? I think you do it. You're already being 3v1'd, right? I think you just go all in. Do your best. I want to see you go for it, Corino. Do it. You know, the securing governorship comes with some downsides. It's one, difficult to hold, though this is not a particularly... The lobby really shouldn't spend any of their influence to try and deny this. They should hold on to all of their influence, but I guess everyone's making enough that they'll cap out again. Good influence production from Fremen and Smugglers, but low influence caps. Fremen top out at 200, Smugglers top out at 300, so they can't really bank enough. They could put 250, 300, 400, 500. Okay. So the Fremen used theirs to oppose, but the Smugglers held on to theirs. An easy victory for Corino. I actually would have liked to see them do the math and maybe not spend all their influence, but we got war. Siege tanks are down. We're close to the main base. Fremen came in to fight, which I think was a tactical mistake. Oh my god, raiders came out and are now liberating this village. That's very funny. Maybe some micro confusion there. But the Fremen army is getting shellacked by the artillery drones plus the Imperial base here. Definitely chase Atreides. Definitely punish this. This is being liberated. The Atreides were not by their airfield, so they can't get up there yet. There is an airfield here. Is it being attacked? Yes, it is being attacked. Good play. Airfield down, and the Atreides did not fly up. Oh, well played by Corus. Really well done. Chases off the Fremen, manages to get up here and stop this airfield from completing. He could have left the neutrals to do it themselves, but he's going to get up here and do the dirty work. Burning everything else down. Ought to be able to liberate that. Good play. Space Cow they with the Free Company just hanging out in Imperial territory. Governorship is a tickin'. Tickin'. Anyone else looking like they're going to be at triple blue anytime soon? No is the answer. I feel like we might have a governorship here, and I gotta say, I love the play of it. Smugglers look uncertain about how they want to commit to this. Maybe they're angling for a base dive. We do have defense breaches up. The trouble is, there are 2 Imperial bases, so you need to dive not 1, but 2 to really change this. Corino going for the annex here up north, actually. Close that terrain off permanently from the Atreides being able to grab it. Atreides must have paid an arm and a leg of authority to annex something on the far end of the map here. Siege Tuic working on building up. What do armies look like? 55. Everyone's pretty much maxed out, although we're only at 55 for the Smugs. They do not have their commands. No, they do have command post up. They didn't have synchronized heist done. They're just picking it up now. They were greedy for quite some time. We have the Invisible Free Company coming up. Is there any peace with everyone? Nope, everyone's at war with Corino. And we've got a base dive, it looks like. With the full Corino army here, they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. We have a massive force of donkeys. Everybody's diving in on the base. Defense sabotage is down. Defense breaches are down. And the Corino army is laying into the Fremen. And the base is not going down quite fast enough. We do have hidden explosives. But the Fremen get wiped by the chonky Corino force, and now this group of Free Company is about to feel the wrath of Corino unleashed. Oh! And not a lot of damage done to the underworld headquarters. Ooh. I think Corino would gladly have paid 1/3 of their base health to wipe completely 2 major armies. Basically everybody dead. Banerjee lived, and there's a Wraith online back home for the Smugglers. Fremen wiped out to a man. Atreides starting a long walk up north, but hegemony is not the problem, my friends. You could take all the special regions you want right now. Smugglers can put together like 350 votes. We got 7 days for the council. Fremen can put together 180. Atreides can put together 160. Corino currently sitting on 800. Ought to be more than enough. Dune Governor, they have not. A Water Sellers Union will come up. Somebody upvoted that. Maybe Corino if they're savvy. I don't know. The way to do it is to upvote the governorship, because you need the governorship to come back up. And then you'd have the governorship online, and also you ought to have loss of rights come up as well, which loss of rights I believe is guaranteed to come up if the Dune governorship is on the table. If you had both options come up, you could try to play a game of chicken where everybody puts their vote, they talk to each other, puts their votes on one, and hope that maybe Corino picks to put their vote on the wrong thing. But if just loss of rights comes up, Corino will be able to use their overwhelming voting power to crush the resolution and ought to sail into a pretty comfortable victory, I think, in case something strange happens. And the chunky Corino army is devastating this Atreides force. They're being torn to pieces. Good lord, it's a distraction. We've got smugglers again, sort of hanging out in territory, but the Corino army wasn't even all there. The Kronos is back home. There's an assassin and a Sardaukar just chilling out, watching in the backfield. We've got a worm straight into the base again with mobile turrets. It's very aggressive. It's not going to get a lot done here. And indeed, we're starting to see some of the neighboring villages are starting to get fortified with turrets as well. Corino going to be just fine there. We ought to have a Landsraad in 2 days here. Perhaps our final Landsraad. If they don't hold on to the governorship, it is going to get a bit tight because they can't... How dare you assassinate my donkey? Corino can't hold a 3v1 indefinitely. At least I don't think so. And they would have to hold for a long time still for hegemony. But we got 6 days on a Landsraad. 500, 600, 750 votes versus like 950. Looks like Corino ought to have it. I'm really impressed with the Corino play. Whether intentionally or accidentally, a lot of his choices have been very good. Done a great job. The army composition's been solid, and we've seen that by stomping on all of the other armies. He's done a good job of... He has chomed up to 34%. What a boss. Loss of rights is online. Architectural surveys, though. Architectural surveys would have been really interesting, except that we've seen them be pretty impotent in their abilities to try and bash a base down. And like we talked about, they got to bash not one but 2 bases down, and that is certainly not going to be in the cards in the last 9 days here. Easy peasy, Corino, don't screw this up. You click on loss of rights, you click on decline, and you move the slider all the way over to the right. You win the game. There we go. Oppose. The lobby has gone all in on architectural surveys. Main bases and missile batteries suffer plus 50% damage received, minus 50% power. But there's still a full Corino army here to fight. They're a bit low. They need to rebuild. They dropped down to 55. And we've got a 65 CP stack from smugglers, but time is not on their side. You do need Banerjee up there. The Wraith is not up there. You need the Wraith up there 100%. The Wraith is critical because it absorbs shots from the main base. We're going to see it. They're going to attempt it. Hell, they might even get it. If the Fremen come in, and indeed the Fremen are, the worms are going, the Free Company are going, the Atreides are mostly dead still. Defense breaches, hidden explosives, and the Free Company are all in, but they're getting smashed. Mobile turrets come in. They're starting to pick off Corino troops, at least. I kind of like that. The base is going down. Maybe the smugglers are going down. We'll see how the donkeys can hold. The smugglers attacking the base. The Fremen are attacking the Corino army. Might have been a bit better for the smugglers to focus on the army too. Oh, okay, now the Corino army turns on the helpless donkeys. Oh, and they're taking still pretty big AoE shots to the face. Aram Sham leading his Sardaukar corps to just carve through all the interlopers. I'm calling it. It's GG for Corino. That's a governorship victory. Quiet Snow, aka Course, very, very commanding lead. I liked it. Did he ever? No, he never got a craft workshop up on the Polar Sink, but it didn't matter. He didn't need any craft workshops at all. The lobby was weak enough on the weak enough in the Landsraad play that Corino was able to very quickly push through month 7 governor victory. Remas says Corino always wins. That's not my experience, but GG, folks. Well played. Not only this, Corino's going on the offensive. He's sending his troops over to the smuggler base to attack. They're just trying to kill Banerjee. Siege Tuic actually has defense breaches. Why did Corino have defense breaches prepped? In fact, we didn't even see an orbital strike all game. Just a little, pour a little sand into the wound. Smuggler's going to attack the Corino base, but it's all over. It's all over, except for the crying. Good times, good times. That was a fun game. That was pretty dynamic, a lot of back and forth. We saw some questionable military engagements maybe a little early on, but that is totally to be expected. Dune Spice Wars, especially for beginners, takes a lot of practice to get the feel for keeping an eye on supply and sort of identifying, like, at this distance, you know, with this long outside of my territory, you know, how long will my supply hold up, or to plan ahead for that and make sure you've got your supply drop ready to go. Very common problems you see when players still learning the game. And we've got a nice finished screen here of smugglers smashing away at the base, and the base smashing the smugglers. I love it. I love it. That was a good game. That was fun to watch. I like that one. GG Corino, well played. Didn't have the best spawn or anything. Just managed to turn it well. Played it properly. Was able to really sort of boom off of that some early non-pressure. Nobody pressured Corino early. They were all busy fighting the smugglers, which I think was a bit of an overreaction. I get it from the Atreides, who were mad at the smugglers, and the smugglers sort of mad at the Atreides. The Fremen didn't really need to come over, or when they did, they came over a bit too much, right? They could have very safely annexed that middle territory away from the smugs and just sort of sat on it themselves and had a decent amount of hedge from it. But then they pushed even further east, ended up getting wiped, losing that forward cap that they could have gotten for their trouble, just delving a bit too greedily and too deep, as we say it all the time, but it's just fun to say. And it happens constantly. Overextension is back to the water talking earlier. Overextension is a huge problem. I didn't click through our details quick enough, so we didn't get to look at the final screens. Apparently that kicks you out of the lobby once everybody else exits. GG, that was a fun one. GG to Course. Played great there. He will be advancing to the finals of the second Dune Circuit Beginners Tournament. That was a fun one. Hope you guys liked that one. I was highly entertained. We will have another third or maybe fourth at this point, maybe? I think it's fourth. Someone else played a second game, and I think I didn't get to cast that one. We'll have a fourth one coming up in about a week away, I believe. And I will be casting that one. It'll be a nighttime cast for me, so it'll be mighty late for our European friends. But I think that is probably like next Thursday, something like that. We'll see. GG to all of our competitors. It was a great game, a lot of fun to watch, and thank you for watching, folks. We will get you some more Dune Spice Wars relatively soon. See you around.